I'm sure you've all seen the flight cancellations that are happening, but did you know there are some things you can do to lessen the likelihood of booking a flight that gets canceled? Today, I'm going to share some of the things that's causing so many canceled and delayed flights, and then give you a few tips to help you avoid these situations. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, from January to April of 2022, 76% of nonstop domestic flights arrived on time. They also say the on-time arrival rate in the US hasn't been this low since 2014. Now, I must admit, I thought the numbers would be worse. And I guess when you consider these stats are prior to summer break and there are less direct flights right now, the situation is still pretty bad. Before we get into how to avoid canceled flights, I think it's important to understand why so many flights are being delayed and canceled. First of all, school is out, and summer is when there's an increase in travelers because more people are taking vacation with their families. Add to that the fact that after 2 years of being stuck at home, many people are back to traveling, and with the high cost of gas, more people are choosing to fly over driving. So the demand for flights is extremely high right now, and while it's minor, the weather can also be a factor in whether a flight arrives on time or not. But here's the bigger issue: staffing shortages. Just like so many other industries, the airlines are experiencing staffing shortages, and one of the largest problems is a shortage of pilots, which is being caused by a combination of things like retirements, illness, and difficulty rehiring after the historic layoffs due to COVID. But the shortages are being seen across the board with TSA, baggage handlers, desk agents, and everywhere else. In a tight labor market, staffing issues are quite often the blame for delays. This is why I continue to remind you to be nice and polite to those who are working, because many of the airline employees are overworked due to less staff and more passengers. And as a side note, do not check a bag if you can help it. Because of the staffing shortages, the wait time to check your bag or get your bag at baggage claim can be extremely long. The other issue too is if your flight is canceled, it may be difficult to get your luggage back in time for your flight on a different airline. Plus, the reports of bags being lost is at an all-time high as well. So what can you do to improve your chances of your flight arriving on time? Well, for starters, you should know which airlines are doing a good job of arriving on time and which are not. Delta tops the list at 82% of on-time flights. American Airlines and United are tied at 78%, and Southwest is 74%. The discount airlines like Spirit, Frontier, and JetBlue all fall under 70% for on-time flights, with JetBlue being the worst at 60%. So just know, it's true what they say, you get what you pay for. And if arriving on time is more important than the cost, be sure to fly on one of the top airlines with on-time flights. You can also research your flight's on-time performance. Just enter the flight number in the U.S. Bureau of Transportation's website, and you can see the history flight delays the carrier has, which will help you to make a more informed decision. Another way to avoid delays and cancellations is to book the earliest flight possible. More than likely, the first flight of the day is going to depart and arrive on time. But as the day goes on, delays and cancellations leave planes and crews alike in the wrong place, unable to catch up and get flights out on time. For instance, if there's a maintenance issue and the flight is delayed, then it's a snowball effect, and it will likely affect all flights after that. So when it's time to book your flight, just remember the earlier your flight, the better chance you have of it being on time. You also want to try to avoid layovers if at all possible. Having an extra stop on the way to your destination only doubles your chances of something going wrong. However, when a direct flight just isn't possible, try to push your connecting flight out for more than an hour. The days of a reliable 30-minute to an hour layover are nearly impossible these days, and you're better off booking all legs of the flight on the same airline. The reason for this is because if the delay was the airline's fault, they may try to work with you in some way, like adjusting your connecting flight. But if your next leg is on a different airline, this definitely won't happen. And make sure the airline you choose has multiple flights per day on your route. Here's the thing, when a flight is canceled, most airlines try to get you on the next flight with available space at no additional charge. So if there are other flights that day and your flight is delayed, you may have to wait a few hours, which I know is still an inconvenience, but at least it won't ruin your whole trip. Now, of course, following these tips won't guarantee that your flight isn't canceled, but using a thought-out plan can certainly help reduce the chances. Oh, and be sure to check your flight status before you leave for the airport, so if you need to look for another flight, you can do that in the comfort of your home. And you may want to consider getting trip insurance. Now, of course, you should never leave the country without trip insurance, but even on a domestic flight, trip insurance may be able to help you get your money back if your flight is canceled or pay for expenses you incur due to a delayed or canceled flight. I talk about that more in these videos, so be sure to check them out. Until next week, stay safe and remember, travel is life.